All right, so I am going to start recording here. Just for anybody who maybe can't make this meeting time and maybe wants to watch it later. I know that this may not be the best time for everybody, so in the future I may try to find a better time or do something later in the day. I know people are either working or some people are even at blood drives right now, so we'll try to find something in the future that maybe will work better for more people's schedules. So we'll go ahead and get started here. First, I want to check, can everybody hear me okay, see me okay? And do you see the slide that says quarterly meeting July? You can either come off mute or you can open up the chat and type something in the chat if you would like to.
I will say yes to all of that, Carrie.
Okay,
Can see
thank you.
everything good. Yep.
All right. So first, I just wanted to take a moment to talk a little bit about myself. I know that most of you have known me either through my emails or we've met in person or we've talked over the phone. But the most important thing that I want to say here is just that I am here for you. I'm your volunteer engagement representative, meaning that you are the most important part of my job. And my job is 100% helping blood drive volunteers, supporting you, making sure you have everything you need. So, I'm not handling staff or supplies or scheduling the blood drives. Everything I'm doing is for you. You are my top priority. So I just want to be really clear about that because I do get questions about who I am or what I do. And I don't want people to ever feel like I'm too busy for your questions or your comments or anything. I'm here for even the smallest little things, especially if you're at a blood drive. If anything ever comes up, know you can always call me, text me, email me, anything like that. And I'm always here for you. So the first thing I wanted to do today during our meeting is start something that I'm calling the kind of back to basics series, which is going to be during our quarterly meetings, but also occasionally tidbits I'll send out in the weekly emails. And I'm hoping eventually I can host some documents online that you could all be able to access, really just to make sure that we're all building off the same foundation, because some people are new, some people have been here for a really long time, and things change, and just to kind of make sure that we're all starting together on square one and we're all kind of going forward with the same information. So with that being said, I wanted to start with some Red Cross trivia because the American Red Cross has really cool, really important local history. And if anybody knows the answers to any of these questions, you can either come off mute or put them in the chat. And the questions are: who founded the American Red Cross? When was the American Red Cross founded? And where was the American Red Cross founded? And if you aren't quite sure how to access the chat, it'll be up at the top center of your screen. You'll see a speech bubble and it says chat. Click that to open it up and then you can type in there. All right, we've got Clara Barton from Amy. An agreement from Ellen. Donna, I know you know these. But you can go ahead and chat them anyway. Yeah, Clara, okay. So yes, the Red Cross was founded, or the American Red Cross was founded by Clara Barton. And she was a nurse in the Civil War and was so prolific in the care and the supplies that she supplied to the soldiers that she earned the nickname the Angel of the Battlefield. And the important local part of the history is that she founded the American Red Cross in the May of 1881 in Dansville, New York, which is in Livingston County. So that is really cool because for some of us, that's in our backyard, and for some of us, it may be a little bit further away, but it's still in our territory. And so I just have a picture here of the Clara Barton House, American Red Cross chapter number 1. So there's a museum there. If you're ever in the area, I highly, highly recommend going to check it out. And I think it's a really beautiful building as well. I love the red accents. I think it really speaks to the purpose of the building. So I wanted to highlight our territory here. So here's a map of all of our counties. And I put a star on Dansville just because we were just talking about it. That's an approximation of where Dansville is on the map. And you'll see that the counties that are part of our territory are span pretty far. It's 12 counties. They can be pretty far away. For example, from Erie or from Niagara all the way to Tompkins, that's a pretty long drive. So we have a really large, really diverse territory. We have a lot of different communities. We have some really densely populated areas, some that are really rural. Some places have 3 blood drives a day, some have 3 a month. It's just we have a lot of variety. And I'm really excited to work with all these different counties because everybody, no matter where they are, is so passionate about your communities. I've really enjoyed getting to know all of you and seeing how well you know your people and your community. Some of you know the donors at your blood drives very well. And I just think that's really, really great. And it's a really strong asset that you're all bringing to the Red Cross. One unique thing about our territory is that it actually spans 3 different chapters. So we have the Western New York chapter, and then Allegheny and Livingston are part of the Rochester chapter, and Steuben, Schuyler, and Tompkins are part of the Southern Tier chapter. One thing I wanted to address, I did get some feedback about people who were looking to do more in-person meetings and weren't really interested in doing anything virtual, and I completely understand that. But looking at the map, as you can see, it's just difficult to coordinate a big in-person meeting, or even if we were to do several smaller meetings across the territory, it would just be a lot to coordinate. So it doesn't mean that it won't ever happen, because I'm really interested in doing in-person things like that. It just means that I wasn't able to get all my ducks in a row this time around, and hopefully in the future we can do more things in person. I would like to do appreciation events and things like that. And so we can feel closer together and not like we're so spread out over all these different places. Another important thing, just since we're kind of going over some of the basics of being a blood donor ambassador, just a reminder that you can cross not only county lines, you can cross this red line. I know we have plenty of people who live in Tompkins, volunteer in Cortland, vice versa. We have plenty of people crossing the line. And you can feel free to do that anytime. You, I'm sure, are familiar, if you're somebody who does that, familiar with Sylvia or Aaron. They're really great. They can always help you if you're looking to volunteer in any of these other counties, or even if you wanted to go all the way to Eastern New York, maybe you're here for school and you live in Eastern New York for the summer or anything like that, you can always volunteer in any of these other places. So just know that you're not ever restricted to your county. So getting into a little bit of the kind of meat and potatoes of our back to basics type of information that I was talking about, I really quickly just wanted to go over registering for shifts at a blood drive or at the donation center, just because I know it can get a little bit confusing. Really, generally, the best way is to sign up through Volunteer Connection. That is, you can use it either as an app or a website, and you can register up to 90 days ahead of time, which is why that is such a useful tool for you to have as a volunteer. You can sign up really far in advance, and that way you can really ensure that you have days or locations that work best for you, and you're not kind of left sorting through the last minute availabilities there. If you're not able to use Volunteer Connection, that's completely fine. As I'll go over in a minute, a lot of our counties have schedulers that will be able to help you. And also, I'm always here to help you if you don't have a scheduler in your county. I'd be happy to send you a list of upcoming shifts. You can also check my weekly emails. I recently split up the weekly emails by chapter, just because I know we have a lot of needs in Erie County, and I didn't want people in other counties to feel like they were always sifting through all this Erie County information. I wanted everybody to feel like it was a little more customized to their needs. So I did just change that. So I would suggest just checking those weekly emails as they come in for updates and for upcoming shifts. And then also, if you're looking to be in touch with me directly instead of using Volunteer Connection, I can always send you 3 months at a time instead of just for the next month. It really just depends on what you'd like. I know some people have problems with Volunteer Connection sometimes, and if that ever happens, let me know. There are some things that I can help you with, some things I can fix for you, but sometimes the Volunteer Connection, we do have to go to our IT department, and I could always give you their information. So with that being said about Volunteer Connection, there are a few counties where the best thing to do is to check with the scheduler before signing yourself up for anything. This is mainly in the counties that Nancy covers. Nancy is one of our volunteer schedulers. She helps with Cattaraugus, Chautauqua, Niagara, and Wyoming. And if you are looking to sign up for a blood drive in one of those counties, especially if you don't normally volunteer there, it's best to reach out to her first before you sign yourself up, because it's likely that she'll be already working with another volunteer and they're getting their schedule set and she might sign them up for that one. So it's just generally best to do that because she really knows everything that's going on in all those counties. And then we do have a few other counties, Genesee, Steuben, and Tompkins, and then 2 towns, Albion and Dansville, where we do have schedulers as well. Each of those places has their own specific processes. So if you don't normally volunteer in any of those locations and you would like to start, I would suggest just reaching out to me. I have my phone number there, or you can always send me an email, and I can just let you know exactly the right process to go about for that area. And last thing, if you ever have to cancel, just make sure you let me know or let your scheduler know if you live in an area with a scheduler, just so that we can work on getting somebody else in. Something else I wanted to talk about, I had sent this information out in an email, but I had received some feedback that it wasn't 100% clear. So I wanted to take this opportunity to clarify about our adopted drive programs. So in addition to doing normal sign up through your scheduler or through Volunteer Connection, you could also adopt a drive or adopt a shift at our Union Road Donation Center. For adopting a blood drive, what this works best for is if you have a particular blood drive that you love volunteering for, maybe you know the people at that location, maybe it's your church or your community center, and you want to volunteer at that place every time a blood drive happens there. In that case, you can contact me and you can adopt that blood drive. What that means is that you're the go-to person for that blood drive from now on. I will go in and sign you up for several months ahead of time so that you're already in there as the main person before other people can sign themselves up. And then you're never locked in. I always reach out and just double check, hey, this drive is coming up in August. Are you still available? And if you're not, then we can always open it up to other volunteers. But if you are, you're set for that drive. We would do the same thing for our Union Road Donation Center. You can adopt a shift there. We have lots of people who come in once or twice a week, or maybe even once a month or twice a month. And we do the same thing. If they work there every other Friday, I go in and put them in advance. And then in that case, then because that's so regular, I don't usually reach out and send a list of the upcoming shifts. Usually you would just let me know, hey, I can't do this Monday or something like that. But that's a little bit more information about that. So if anybody is interested in adopting a drive or adopting Union Road, definitely let me know and I can get that in the schedule for you. All right, so on to the most important part of our quarterly meeting, which is you and everything you have done for the Red Cross in the past few months. So right now we have 185 volunteers in our territory across those 12 counties we saw earlier. That includes the bulk of our volunteers, which are blood donor ambassadors, but that's also our volunteer schedulers. We have an engagement volunteer, and we also have an onboarding and training volunteer. And with all the 185 volunteers, you all completed 2,586 volunteer hours between April and June. And that's amazing. I broke that down per person per month, and that's roughly 4.5 hours for each volunteer for each month. So that is perfect. That is right on target. That's a really amazing number. You know, on paper, 4 hours a month, for some people that might sound like a lot, for others it might not sound like so many, but when it comes down to it, even if it doesn't sound like a lot, doing 4 hours a month, it's hard to find 4 hours a month sometimes. You know, it can be hard to find even an hour a month to volunteer your time. So that's really, really amazing. Just the amount of time that everybody is able to donate and the time that you give. I'm also blown away. And I also want people to know too that any amount of time you can donate or volunteer is so, so appreciated. If you volunteer twice a week, amazing. But if you volunteer once every 3 months and then you're out of the area 6 months out of the year because you go down to enjoy the nice weather in Florida, you know, even if you're in that case only volunteering a few times a year, that's still amazing. That's still so, so helpful. So there's no help that is too small. And don't think that you're unseen or unappreciated, because I see every single name that is signed up to volunteer. And I know that you're giving your time when you do that. So just thank you so much. This is really, I'm really, really ecstatic about the numbers that I'm seeing. So thank you so much. So to put that into kind of more concrete information instead of just the number of hours, between April and June, we had 442 openings at blood drives and the donation center, and you filled 93% of those. So that is amazing. That is, and that, you know what, I want to say too, that 93%, that is including last minute cancellations if something happened that day and you suddenly couldn't come in. So the intention was way above 93%. It was even higher than that, because those little last minute things, they don't count against your willingness and determination to volunteer. So your enthusiasm was above 93%. And I wanted to give a shout out to a couple of our counties that had 100% of their volunteer needs filled, and that was Wyoming, Orleans, and Livingston. And I also wanted to point out June. So we're only going up to June just because July isn't done yet, so I don't have concrete information about July. But in June alone, 99% of our donation center shifts were filled, and you volunteered at 95% of our blood drives. So I am really privileged to have the opportunity to work with all of you, and just to know that whenever we need a volunteer, one of you will be there. We also had a lot of new people come in between April and June. We had 28 new donor ambassadors joined the team, and we had even more come in July that aren't on here yet. And these are all across our counties, all over our territory. We're just getting new people, and that's really, really amazing. I also want to talk a little bit about the survey. So in case you aren't aware, every time you volunteer at a blood drive at the end of that week on Friday, you should be getting a survey sent to you, and then you have a chance to fill out that survey, and that comes back to us and we get to see all your feedback. If you're not getting those surveys, or if for some reason you're having trouble filling them out, please let me know, because we really depend on those to know how your experience is. So the survey results between April and June, these are numbers that I really want to improve, because 83% rated their overall experience as a 4 out of 5 and a 5 out of 5, or a 5 out of 5 rather. And while that's really great, and I'm really happy that 83% had a good experience, I want that to be 100%. I want you to feel like you're appreciated and rewarding and engaged. I want you to come away from the blood drive with that feeling every time. And the same goes for our appreciation rating, which is that 87% of volunteers indicated they felt appreciated. And I also want that to be 100%, because 100% of you are appreciated. And, you know, if you have any concerns or questions or anything like that, you can always give your feedback in the survey, or you can just let me know directly. Because if there's anything that we can be doing differently, we really want to know. And I want to know especially, so that I can change things for you. And I also wanted to just note, we had a lot of blank answers on the surveys. So for example, if 87% indicate they felt appreciated and 10% didn't respond, that's a little tough for me, because I don't know if the number should actually be 97% or if it should really be 87. So just a thought as you're filling out those surveys, if you could answer every question, and if for some reason you're having technical issues or it's not working, please let me know so we can fix that, so we can get every question on that survey answered. Last thing I wanted to go over here today are just some common questions that come up when I've been out at blood drives or that I've gotten back on the surveys. Something that's unfortunately been happening is that volunteers have been getting to a blood drive and there's already another person there. And normally I've just found out later that blood donor ambassador left. And what I would suggest is if you get to a blood drive and there's somebody else there, if you're not quite sure what to do, please just give me a call. Just so I know what's going on. Sometimes I might go out to a blood drive to visit you and I won't necessarily mention it beforehand because I'm running around and my schedule is changing. So I might decide, oh yeah, I can pop out and visit so-and-so at a blood drive. And if you aren't there, that's just like a missed opportunity on our part to connect. So I would definitely suggest if you ever get to a blood drive, just give me a call if there's another person there. There's a couple different reasons why that might happen. Sometimes we just schedule 2 donor ambassadors. Some blood drives are busier than others and they require more than one person just to keep an eye on all the donors. If you get to a blood drive and there's another Red Cross donor ambassador, you don't necessarily have to call me. You always can, but I always recommend just staying because the assumption should be that you're meant to volunteer together. I do try, usually if we have more than one volunteer at a blood drive, I do try just to reach out and let you both know. Just so you're not confused when you get there, but I occasionally miss it. The other time this might happen is when we have blood drives at high schools. So at high school blood drives, your role is actually a little bit different because you have high school students who are there volunteering with you. And your role is really to help them as they are checking in or as they're checking in donors and as they are supervising donors in the canteen. It's just to provide a adult presence to help make sure that they're doing all those roles correctly. So I know not everybody likes to do high school blood drives, and that's completely fine. But if you are signed up for one, just know that it's a little bit different than our other blood drives. And the last time this might happen is the only time there really shouldn't be multiple people there. And that is that occasionally the locations hosting the blood drive will have their own volunteers. So if it's a fire hall, they might have their own volunteers from the fire hall that are going to be there during the blood drive to assist with incoming donors and watching the canteen. So in that case, normally we're supposed to know, so we don't assign a Red Cross donor ambassador unless they specifically request that we have somebody there with their own donors. But miscommunications do happen. Sometimes the location hosting the blood drive, they don't think to mention to us that they'll have their own people, or it just doesn't come all the way down the line to me. So occasionally it does happen. If you get to a blood drive and there are people there from that location, from that church or anything like that, please let me know because I'll keep an eye out if that blood drive comes up again in the future, and I'll double check if they're going to have their own volunteers again or not. And the other important thing I wanted to address is logging hours that you spend at a blood drive. So if you are volunteering at a blood drive, those hours are automatically added. So if you sign up for the shift through Volunteer Connection, or a scheduler signs you up, or you reach out to me and I sign you up directly, the blood drive is in the system. When the date of the blood drive passes, those hours are automatically added for you. It may not be immediately, it may take a few days, but they do get added in there. If you are at a blood drive you aren't scheduled for, if you go to donate at a blood drive and you go to donate at a blood drive and there's not a volunteer there, so you stay, or you stay later than your scheduled time at a blood drive, then yes, you would want to put those hours in Volunteer Connection. And I have resources on how to do that. If anybody needs, I can send those to you. This doesn't happen a lot, but it does happen occasionally where people stay beyond their scheduled time at a blood drive, and that would really be the only time that you need to log blood drive hours. You will want to add time into Volunteer Connection for anything related to your blood donor ambassador volunteer role that is not blood drives. So I'll go in and I'll add hours for everybody who's at this meeting. If you're watching the recording later, you can put them in yourself in Volunteer Connection. Sometimes I send out videos, things like that. If you watch those, you can always put those hours in. Scheduling yourself, if you spend some time looking through the blood drive schedule, you can log those hours too if you'd like. But for blood drives themselves, you don't have to worry about it. We do occasionally have problems with the scanner at the blood drives. I know the technology can be a little finicky. It is supposed to work almost all the time. So it's if it's not working, if you're having a problem where the scanner is like really not working, definitely let somebody know, because most of the time they are functioning for the entire blood drive. So it should be brought to our attention if they're not working. But that being said, if you're having problems with the scanner, here's just a few tips for how to make sure to get it working correctly. First thing is you want to make sure you're not scanning the rapid pass. That will come up sometimes as the code on people's phone, the QR code, which is the square code. That's the rapid pass. So you want to make sure you're not scanning that as you're scanning their donor card or their donor or their ID. You can try moving the scanner. A lot of times, if you move it back and forth away and closer to the ID, that might help. Make sure the red light on the scanner is actually over the barcode. I've had people let me know that sometimes especially driver's licenses, because they're the kind of material, it can hold on to a lot of dirt and fingerprints. So that might be why it's not working. You can always try just wiping it off and see if that works. And then sometimes IDs have multiple barcodes on them. So I know we have a lot of, in my area, a lot of the special driver's license that you can use to go back and forth over the Canadian border, and those will have extra barcodes on them. So just make sure that you're covering any of those up to help it find the right thing to scan. And then just quick thing I wanted to mention too is that if the scanner is not working, it's very important that the donor types their own information in. So if the scanner doesn't work, they can type their information up into the laptop, and then it will pull up their appointment the same way it would if they scan. But we need to make sure that the donor is typing that information in themselves. And this is not a me rule. It's not a Red Cross rule. We are regulated at blood drives, and this is something that we've been told we have to do. So to facilitate that, I suggest normally you sit with the laptop facing the donor, or you have the laptop here and you sit here. It's best not to sit with it facing you. Sit with it facing the donor, and you can assist them to help them type in their information, but they have to be the one to really type it in. And if you ever get anybody who needs assistance, either they need assistance checking in or they need assistance reading the packet or anything like that, please just get a staff member to help them, because they can always there's always something we can do if somebody needs extra help. There's always something we can do. So a staff member can help you if you need assistance with helping somebody who maybe needs more help. So that is the end of my little presentation here. I'll just stop sharing my screen. Okay. And before we move into, so the next thing I wanted to do was just a general Q&A, see what questions anybody had. Before I did that, I just wanted to ask a question of all of you. So if you can come off mute or put yourself in the chat. And I just wanted to ask if you volunteered in the past week, if you had the list of donors printed out for you, like it normally has been in the past. No, okay. Okay, so we're getting some yeses and some nos.
Sharon Hansen. No, they didn't print out a list.
Okay.
And that was fine.
Okay. Okay, good. Okay, so the reason why I'm asking is just because we have had a change to some of our internal systems here, and it's changed the list itself and our ability to print it. So as of right now, we're still kind of looking into more about that and trying to figure out what the new standard is going to be going forward. But just so you know, I don't want anybody to be surprised if you arrive and they don't have a list printed out, they don't have a list printed out for you like they've done in the past. As of right now, we're still just kind of refiguring out the new system and trying to see what we can do going forward. But I know that all of you are going to be able to provide the same excellent customer service, whether or not you have that list in front of you. You can still get the people's names when they come in, get their appointment time. You can get the spelling off their name for their license if you want to write the ID, the name tag. So you can still get all the information that you need. It just may not be printed out anymore. We just kind of have to look into that a little bit. All right, so yeah, Janice, I see that. I know having the list is really helpful to know when there's breaks in appointments. You can also stay in communication with the staff. So when you arrive at the blood drive, I usually recommend introducing yourself to the charge person or the supervisor, just so they know that you're there and they know your name. And then you can stay in touch with them throughout the drive and find out when a good time might be to take your break, or figure out when there might be more appointments or less appointments. So that's what I would suggest doing if you don't have a printed out list, just so you can get a good sense of when the most appointments are booked. All right, so I just want to open it up to general questions, comments now. You can type them in the chat. You can come off mute. Any questions or anything that anybody has? And if you think of anything later too, if you can't think of anything right now, you can always call or email me later and I can help you then too. Oreos. Okay, so Charlene says she's been asked for Oreos. Yeah, that is a great, I can see what we can do there. I don't know why there might be changes for certain types of snacks that they have at a time, but I could always look into it. If we have requests, we can always check into it and see. They may have just not had some for a little while, but yeah, I can definitely look into that and see if we can get more of those.
Carrie, it's Roberta Roma. About the snacks, I was told that it's what we get donated to us, and that's what we get. So
Okay.
I guess the theme of it is what they can get cheap or free is what they'll be getting in the boxes.
Okay. No, thank you. I appreciate that. So yeah, that might just be the case. We might just not have gotten Oreos donated recently. And that would probably be why there aren't any. And Roberta, I see your comment that travel time to drive used to be done for us. I might have just misspoken. It still is. We have a volunteer who puts in travel time to and from drives. So I apologize if I misspoke, but there is a volunteer who is still doing that. He will go in and give everybody travel time for each month that they volunteer. And Janice, yeah, I see that. I hope we keep the list. Red Cross people come to me to check the list and see what appointments are left. Yeah, and that is, we all, I mean, I used the list in my work too. I was able to pull it up and see when different drives were. So we definitely understand the importance of it. And like I said, we are just trying to see what we're going to be doing next with the change in system. And as soon as we know anything definitively, I will definitely share that with you. Canteen. Okay, so Amy, I've been wishing that the canteen materials would include wipes. I've had to ask the collection folks for their. I'm not sure if it's supposed to be disinfected or if I can just wipe it with a paper towel and water. My understanding, Amy, is that it no longer needs to be disinfected per se the way it was during COVID. But I could certainly look into if that's something that we're still supposed to be doing. I honestly just don't know, because I started kind of after a lot of those COVID protocols. But I could certainly look into that for you and see if that's something that you should have at every blood drive, because if you're supposed to have that at every blood drive, I will definitely make sure that we get that provided for you. Are there any other questions that anybody can think of? Okay. All right, well, if there's no other questions, then we can wrap up for now. Like I said, I will share the recording. So if you ever wanted to check in later, you could watch this, or like I said, I'll share this with all the people who aren't here so they can all see all this information as well. Ellen, did you have anything you wanted to add? I saw you came off mute.
I just wanted to say thank you so much for doing a great meeting and all this information. It was really nice for me to also jump on and, you know, get to know a few volunteers a little better. Tom, nice to see you, and really enjoyed the time. So thank you, everyone.
Thank you. All right, thank you, everybody. I will talk to you all soon, I'm sure.